Hello all. Hi, this is Anirudh Agarwal, and this is the Newton School Launchpad. Welcome to another session with Introduction to JavaScript. In the previous two sessions, we have covered about basics of JavaScript. You can go ahead and you can see the session. One sec. All of the recorded sessions are actually present when you go to the Newton School website, and you can just simply sign up, or if you are coming for the second time, you can log in, and you will see all of the courses that are being provided. So this is an initiative by Newton School to provide education and provide basic programming skills to anybody who wants to learn free of cost. So there are tons of courses available. One of them being JavaScript, which we are going to cover today. There are also courses around Java, Python, and all of that. Whichever one interests you, you can go ahead. So this is the course that we are currently taking up, Introduction to JavaScript by Anirudh Agarwal. There would be total of 8 courses in which we have covered 2 of them. Today we are on the third lecture, in which we would be covering about loops and conditional statements and equalities and inequalities, all of that in JavaScript, which is going to be super interesting for all of us to understand together, right? So the agenda for today is would be mainly to understand the logic, and if you want to build some logic around programming, how would you go about doing that, right? And if what if you want to perform some task repeatedly, then how would you go about doing that? Yesterday we learned about we learned a little bit, we covered a little bit about recursive programming, how what kind of programs we can develop, and we also saw that we also try to build a countdown timer from any number, let's say 10, and we printed 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And today we will be learning about loops. Primarily, loops is like a fundamental concept, which is across all other programming languages that are there across the globe. Loop is something which would be available, and the syntax around a loop would also remain consistent across all programming languages. Although we would be covering a little bit around what JavaScript is and what does happen when loop starts, how does it end, all of that. So let's just get started. So the first thing that always comes, which is always beneficial for all of us to see, is that if we want to see the operators, right? If you want to compare two numbers, if you want to compare anything, right? How would we go about doing that? So these are and I have also mentioned in my previous videos that JavaScript is a very human friendly language. It tries to help you, and whatever you see, how you would be thinking, how would you speaking in English, JavaScript would try to has tried to actually has actually tried to be as much close to a human interactable language, English, right? So that is what. So let's say we want to compare two numbers, right? If one of them is greater or one of them is less than, so it's just greater than greater than less than operator. So just taking an example, 5 is less than 2, which is obviously false, right? So that is what these are operators. We will be seeing, we'll try to understand what these operators are doing for now, and then we'll be seeing how they can be used and how their power can be leveraged when we are writing programs, right? So let's just try to go through the theory once, and then we'll try to jump into the implementation part of it, which is the most interesting part, which I feel. Okay, so let's just consider this particular operator, which is less than, greater than. Now this is a simple operator saying less than or equal to. This is a simple operator saying greater than or equal to, and then this is equal to. This is equal value and same type. Let's just not get into these two. Probably we'll be covering this in tomorrow's session, wherein we will be talking about JavaScript objects, and then how would a JavaScript object compare with another JavaScript object. All of that we'll be covering about what JavaScript objects are. That is so once you attend tomorrow's session, you would have the entire picture of how JavaScript works. So we for the first session we just covered introduction, and now we are just taking up basics. Tomorrow we will be covering up the majority chunk of it. So let's just try to get into. So we have covered all of these, and let's just forget about these two for now, and then probably we can pick this up later on, right? So the next thing is that if we also touched up a bit on conditional operators yesterday, where I talked about if statement, that what is a if, what, how do we write it. So there are there is more syntax around, and to build a more power, give it more power, there are few more things, few more conditions that we can touch upon, right? So let's just try to see what those are. Okay, let me just pick up the pointer. Yeah, cool. So just if you imagine, this is what it is. So let's say we define a number, let integer, and then we have, oops, my bad. So let's just define a number, let number equal to 2. I would rather do it in an ID, let's say, so that it is becoming more interesting for all of us to see together, right? So let's just start with a very basic, simple example that we saw yesterday, and we'll try to take it up from there, right? So let me define a variable a, which is, and I'll give it a value of 4, right? And then okay, let's just also revise what we covered yesterday in terms of functions. How would we define a function? So I'll just try to write a simple function in which we'll take in 2 parameters, and the function will print the operators are equal. Otherwise, it will print, or if the parameters are not equal, right? So let me just write function, and we'll define equal. I'll name this is. I'll go through what we had covered yesterday. So basically, function is a keyword which is defined by JavaScript itself. Then we have equal is a function name, and then we follow it by 2 parentheses, and then we have and then we take in parameters. So we'll take it param1, and we'll take it param2, right? And then we end it, and then we say curly braces around it, and in that we will start implementing a function body. So now what we can say is, since we're using the if operator, what we want to use the if operator, and just to check if 2 functions are equal, what did we just learn? We learned that the equality operator is given by this guy, right? This is how we want to compare the equality, right? So what we'll do is that I'll check if param1 is equal to param2. What else do? I'll just say equal. Right, that's very simply put, that is what I'll do. And I'll also say another statement, if param1 is not equal to param2, I'll say console.log, and I'll say not equal, or let's say not. My bad. Yep. So let me just so basically we have created a function, and this is a if syntax that we are saying that if any parameter, and this is a statement that goes into if, right? This is a very simple and this if statement, right? It is consistent across. This is not just a JavaScript paradigm. It's a programming paradigm in general, right? So when we say an if and we give it a statement, so whenever this statement is true, this statement holds true. So that is what this meant, right? These results that we were talking about, that if 5 is less than 2, it's false. 5 is greater than 2, it's true, right? So that is what we are saying, that if param1 is equal to param2, this statement holds true. So then the body inside whatever is the body given inside this if statement would get executed. Otherwise, it won't get executed. So let me just try to see. Let me just try to equal. Call this function, and I'll invocate this function with 2 parameters saying 1 and 1, right? So it should print a value of equal, right? And that's exactly what it did, right? So very simple, that if and let's say I change this value, and then it should say not equal, right? It's not equal, right? So let's just try to see and try to analyze what was happening. So when we call this function, right, this particular param1 assume the value of 1, and when we said and 2 assume the param2 assume the value of 2, right? So then the engine would have come here, the compiler is coming here, and then it is saying that param1 is equal to param2. So 1 is not equal to 2. So this would have resulted in a false statement, right? For obvious reasons. And then it will move on to, and then, so this wasn't executed. That's why hence this equal, we do not see this equal here, right? And then we say if param1 is not equal to param2, then we are doing this is console.log, right? So then this is and this, since this held true, so this particular statement was executed, and then it came here, and then there was nothing. So then the execution was stopped, right? So that is how it is, and that's how simply we can write this out. Now let's try to create another function saying greater than, right? And I'll create a function. Let me just remove this. It's fine. We do not need it anymore. So we'll say function, and I'll remove this. I'll write function. I'll write greater than, and I'll say param1, and I'll say param2, and I'll say if param1 is greater than param2, I'll say console.log of true, and if param2 is greater than param1, what I'll do console.log of false, right? So that is what, very simply put, we just learned about these statements, and we're saying if param1 is greater than param2, we'll do a log statement. If param2 is greater than param1, we'll do a false logging, right? So, and then I call this particular function. I'll copy this and I'll paste it over here. And then that is what we are just doing. We're doing this, right? So what is the expectation? In this case, it should print false, right? And that is exactly what it'll do. It returned false. So we'll go through it one very quickly. So when we call this function, param1 assume the value of param1, param2 assume the value of 2, and then it started executing the statement. Param1 was 1 is not greater than 2. So console.log, this statement was never executed. Then when it came here, param2 is not equal to param2 is greater than so 1. So 2 will be greater than 1. So that is why we printed false. We printed false, right? Now, just think about it, that what if one particular scenario is getting missed? So programming is all about thinking and building logics and thinking of corner cases and all of that. So in this particular instance, one corner case would be that what we have not covered is that we have not covered in case what will happen when I pass in the same things. Like what if I pass 1 and 1, right? And it did not print, because since this value did not hold true, so 1 is not greater than 1, so it did not print this guy. Then it said that param2, which is 1, is not greater than 1. Then again, this statement did not hold true, so the statement was never executed, and hence it executed the function without anything, without printing anything. Now I would have to write another, and we can handle this saying that param1 is equal to, so since this function is just greater than, so we have to give a true or false value, right? So what I'll do is that if param2 is greater than equal to, then I'll print it as false. So what did I just do? I said that if param2 is greater than or equal to, then it is not greater than, right? That is why we printed it false, right? Param1 is not greater than param2. So if param1 is equal also, then also we'll print false. But only if param1 is greater than param2, then only we will print it true, right? So what did I do? I said that, okay, if param2, then we'll just try to run it, and it will say false. Now, because since 1 is not greater than 1. Now let's say I try to modify this function, and I'll greater and equal to, greater than and equal, right? So in this case, what is happening is that we want to say that if param1 is either greater than or equal to, then we want to print true, right? So that is what we did, and when we try to run this function, it will return me a true value. It should have returned me a true value. It did not somehow. So then what and we come to the error log, and we see that, okay, greater than, and we see the error. What does it say? Greater than is not defined. And what does it tell me? It is at line number 13, right? So that is what it is telling me. So it does not exist. There is like, okay, so basically it's trying to say that the greater than function does not exist, because there is no greater than function. since we changed the name of this greater than function, so we need to, while invocating this, we also need to use the same function name, right? So we'll do this copy and we'll paste it here. And then we'll try to run it. What do we see? In standard output, we should see that there's a true value, right? This is the, so basically when now it is greater than equal to, so it's behaving as per our expectations. Now, one thing that might trouble us is that how many if conditions. So for this stupid thing, right? This is a very simple, trivial, stupid example of how would we write code, right? This is not exactly how a code is written. So as the name suggests, if there is if and what if it does not hold true. So there comes something known as else. So right. So we'll try to see what else does. So what else does is that if my so what does it do is that if this statement did not hold true, then so we say that when if statement, if the statement provided inside if is true, then I execute this block. But now we are saying that if they did not hold true, then execute this block. So I will do console.log of false, right? So this makes my statement look very cool, very it's a very easy to read, right? Because if what if this does not happen else, right? But when we were using two if loops, what was happening is that we had to do different, there were two different contexts, right? And I mentioned yesterday that coding should be your code should be written in such a way that it is readable, understandable by everybody, right? It should be easily understandable. That's the quality of good code, that you actually do not have to write the person who's reading your code should be able to understand it without taking your help, right? So that is what programming is about. So that is what we are doing. We are actually trying to do a if statement, and then we do an else statement, and then what do we do is that and this should run as per our expectations, right? And let's say I prove I do greater than equal to, so it printed true, and then when I provided 4, it should return me false value, right? That is exactly what it did. Now let's say you want to let's say I try to modify this function, and I say that okay, let me check for equality. Let me name this function as equality, and I will say if my param1 is greater than 1, greater than param2, I'll say greater. If it's smaller, then I'll say smaller, and if it is equal, I'll say equal, right? So then, since we've only learned about if and else, what would happen? So let's just try to use these, and we'll see equality, right? So that we don't make the same mistake every time. It's always a good practice to, whenever you're changing the name of a function, you always also change the name of the function to where you are trying to invoke it. That's a good practice. It's considered to be a good practice. Otherwise, we will run into errors like we did last time, that we had changed the name of the function, but we were calling it with some other name, right? So let's always make it a practice in our heads, in our minds, that whenever we are changing a name of the function, you would be able to you should also change it in your in the place you are invocating. So just to make it easier, right? Whenever so while writing code for big frameworks, for big apps, right? There are a lot of IDs that are available. There are a lot of free IDs, a lot of paid IDs, and all of that are available. So basically, this whenever you do this thing, right, and whenever you're changing a name of function, what you will do is you'll just right click on that and you'll say rename symbol. Right. So what it will do is that wherever this function is getting used, right? So if I say rename symbol and I say equality1, so what it did, wherever I was calling this particular function, it would have changed it, right? It changed wherever it did, right? So that's a very good, and this is a feature which is provided by most of the IDs out there. So I'll name it back to equality, and wherever I was using it, I can also show it to you that this works everywhere. So this, and then when I do wherever it's getting called, right? Even if it is in a different file, it will just get changed, right? So that is what happens. So my bad, and then I'll rename it back to equality, right? So that is what renaming a reference does, and it's a very good practice to actually do it by taking the help of your ID, and instead of going manually and figuring out where it was used and all of that, right? So it's a good way that we are doing it. the ID provides it with good functionality, right? So let's use that since they're providing it, right? So now, also for everybody's reference, if you want to, I would still suggest that we keep using this ID for just learning, for the learning purposes, because there are a lot of things that goes into when you want to set up your development environment for your JavaScript. But we will be taking one of sessions in which we'll just cover up very quickly that how, if I want to go ahead, which ID would I want to use. My personal favorite would be, if anybody's interested, my personal favorite is using VS Code. It's an open source ID provided by Microsoft. Also, another one of my favorites is WebStorm. It's a paid software which is developed by IntelliJ, one of the major players in like IDE market, right? Cool. So let's go ahead. And what do I want to do is that if in this case, if my param1 is greater, then I wanted to print greater than, greater, and if it is less, then I want to be smaller, right? Now let me just get rid of these two as well, and I'll run it, right? So in my case, it would just say smaller, right? And that is what was expected. Now what if I pass it equal values? Now we wanted it to just say equal, right? Now what can I do is that I can actually go in my if else loop, in my else body, and I can say if param1 is greater than is equal to param2, then I can just print console.log, and I can say equal. Otherwise, I would say smaller. Cool. So now just we'll try to see what would happen. So let's say when 1 and 1 would come here, it would say that, okay, 1 is not greater than 1. So it will go to the else loop, then it will start executing. The control will come here, and then it will say that param1 is equal to param2. So it will print an equal, and when it says else, and this it will hold true. So then else statement will not get executed, and the program will finish since there's no more lines to execute, right? So in this case, we should be seeing equal. Right, and let's say I give it a value of 4 and 1, right? So then it would come here, because then 4, no, my bad, 8, right? So then param1 is not greater than 8, so this statement will not get executed, and it will go to else. Now it will check for if 4 is equal to 8, which will not hold true, right? So then it will go to else, and in else we will be just printing this smaller, right? So this, and we'll try to run, and we'll validate our code, and yes, that is exactly what we expected, and that is exactly what got printed. Now, to make our lives easier, right, so there is something known as else if. So this is a construct which is again which is very common across all programming languages, be it C, C++, Java, and that is what we'll do. So there is something known as if, else, if, and else. So that is what we also have something called as else if, and then we have an else statement, right? So that's the syntax of writing it. And what we'll do is we'll just we'll remove it from here, and we'll do this, and we'll do this. Oops, my bad. We'll just copy this guy, we'll put it here. Now we don't need any of this, and we'll do this. Right? That is exactly what we were doing earlier. So it's a more simplified and a JavaScript version of how to handle things. And just to make it a little more simpler for us to read code, I'll just try to put it this way, right? But the syntax will remain the same. Cool, right? So now let's read through it, right? So if param1 is greater than 2, then do this. Else if param1 is equal to this, then do this. Else if none of these hold true, then do this. That's it. It makes our life so much easier, right? So much easier to help it is actually there to help us out, right? That is what it is doing. JavaScript, they're always listening to developers. What are the pain points? They're not. So programming is not about making the life of a developer hell. It is not about that. It is about that how can a developer develop more things. They want you to put more of your focus not onto the language but onto thinking, building more solutions, thinking of complex ways, solving complex problems, and not just worry about your programming language, your syntax or programming language. So you will. So that is why they keep coming up with all of these things, right? So that is what we are also doing. That if param1 is greater than param2, then we'll just do this. So let's just very simply run it, and we'll see what happens. Right? It printed smaller. Right now let's say I give it a value of 4 and 4. And I'll print equal, right? So this statement was not there. So now, just if you think about it, in these, right, whenever you're writing if and else, only one of these things, only one of these flows will get executed anytime. Whenever there's a if and else loop, and also you could have also added, you can add multiple else if. So this is a valid syntax. This is a valid syntax, right? You could have written else if param1 and equal to param2. Okay, let me just introduce one more concept, and then probably we'll go ahead. So okay, what you can do is you can also nest multiple conditions inside your if. So what does it mean? Like, you can nest multiple conditions. So if you want to say that if param1 is greater than param2, and you want to do something else, and or you want to check that param1 is also greater than 0. So then you can also say that, then you can do this, right? You can do so what you want to do is that if param1 is greater than param2, and param1 is greater than 0, then only you want to do this. Otherwise you want to do something else, right? So what it will do is that you can put and operator. So you can nest multiple conditions together in your if, in your else if. So else does not take in any conditional, right? If none of these hold true, else will get executed, right? So that is always what would happen. But you can nest multiple conditions using and that's what. So you have to use bind and this is called ampersand, and you have to use it twice, right? You have to write and. So similarly there is something known as or. And this is your or operator. This is two lines which says that this is or operator and this is your and operator. Very simply, just to help us out. Otherwise what would have happened, right? What would have happened is that it would have been so complex. If I wanted to add this condition that param1 is greater than 0, I would have to write it in if, and that statement would not have held true. Then I would have to write this again. I just can't imagine how difficult my life would be, right? I would have to write the entire logic of something happening, blah blah blah, all of that happening inside my if, right? So that is what I have done. I have just I have nested multiple conditions together, right? So now what I want to do is let's just equality, and I'll say that okay, I want to say that if my param1 okay, and I'll add a condition that if param1 is less than 0, or param2 is less than 0, what I can say is I can do console.log. I'll do cannot compare negative numbers. That's simply it's not that I cannot, but let's just build it in such a way that I'm defining my function, right? Equality, and I'll name it something. I'll name it equality for positive. Equality for positive. Naming of function is very important because it helps the reader of your code to understand what is this function trying to do without even getting the body. So if somebody is reading my code, they would be easily able to understand that okay, equality for positive will be doing something, and whenever it tries to pass some negative value, what would happen is that it will print that I cannot compare your I cannot compare negative values. That's simply that what it is doing, right? So now if I pass it any negative value, what it will say, it just printed. So here it printed this value, and since it one condition got executed, none of the others will get executed. So that is the flow, right? So, and in English also, it's very in colloquial English, that is what we say, right? That if something else something, or if you think about it, if something else, if something else, if something else, if something else, right? So in that also, so you say that if it rains today, or if it is very sunny today, then I will not go out. So that is what. So otherwise, if it is a pleasant pleasant weather outside today. Sorry, my bad. Pleasant weather outside today. Then I can go out to play. Else, if I do not get any homework. So you're trying to see what I'm doing, right? That I am trying to build each of them one by one, but in all of these, only one will get executed. Always, that would always be the case, right? So that is what my conditions are. My that is what how if, else if, else if, else if, and it could go into hundreds of lines, right? It could go, and you can put as many conditions as you want, right? That's about it. So that here here I would want to stop with our conditional operators, and we'll just go and we'll quickly revise what we just learned right now. So let me just do this, and then I'll get my pointer and I'll say, okay, so if first condition, so that what we'll just go to the code that we were doing. If number is greater than 0, there's some code that will get executed, right? And that else, if number is equal to 0, there's some code will get executed, else something will happen, right? So let's, if my first condition is true, if number equal to true, if number equal to 2, and the condition is if number is greater than 0, it will execute this particular piece of code, and these lines will never get executed, right? Now, if second condition is true, if the else if part is true, then the number is 0, right? And number is greater than 0. This condition I told you, it's not something which is not it's not true, right? So this particular piece of code will not get executed. So it will move on to the next else if. Now this if number is equal to 0, then it will execute this particular program. It will execute this particular few lines of code, and then it will just exit, and it will come to, and it will get out of this, and after this, whatever is there will anyway get executed, right? And it's not necessary that you have just one else if, you could have multiple else ifs also, right? So it will check for this else if, then it will check for that else if, then else if, all the else ifs, and then it will go, it'll come. And what if all the conditions are false, right? So that is what, if number is great, if number is -2, the number is not greater than 0, number is not also equal to 0. So it will just go to your else block, and this else block will then execute, and then it will finish, right? So this condition, so that is what, sorry, my bad. So this is what is generally happening, that we are just trying to tell you that only one of these, all of these in blocks, right? Only one of them will always anyway get executed. It will never be a condition that if also got executed, else also got executed, right? So that is what if, else, and else if statements are in JavaScript. That is how we write conditions, and there are other ways, but this is one of the most trivial and the most used and the most powerful ways of checking for conditions. And if you look at any code base, right? If you look at thousands of a thousand line of code, I can guarantee you that if condition would have been used at least not if not more, it would have been used at least 10 or 20 times. So and that's true for everybody, and that is the power of using if conditions. Right now, let's come to loops. So if some of you would have attended my yesterday's session, and in that session we talked about how do we build a countdown timer, and we use recursion. Some of you might not even have understood it, and it's completely fine, right? So we'll be touching on those, and it's an advanced concept, and we will be touching up on those in later videos. But for now, what we are saying is that what if I want to perform some piece of code which is like repetitively, right? So if I want to do that, then how would I go about doing that? So there is something known as loop. and this again, this is a concept which is common across all programming languages. Nothing that I am that we are discussing today, or nothing I'll teach that is specific to JavaScript. But the syntax may vary from language to language, right? So, but we are talking about a general programming construct which is of loops, and then we will then we will cover the implementation part of it. So now you might ask me, what would a loop do? A loop is basically, as the name suggests, it's a loop is something looping over again and again and again and again. So and think of it that a loop will continue to execute till the time a condition is met to actually break it off, right? So or you can think of it, or I'll try to reiterate what I just said. A loop will keep executing till the time a particular condition is met. As soon as that condition is held false, or that holds apart, or that does not hold true, the loop will stop executing. That is exactly, very simply put, what a loop is. A loop will hold true, will keep running till the time a condition is met. As soon as the condition is not met, whenever it returns me a false value, then that particular loop will stop executing. That is what a loop is. And we'll see, and just remember these words, we'll see how that comes into practice. Now, one thing to be very careful about when using loops, which most of the people when they start coding, even me when I started coding back in college and all of that, I used to make this mistake that I forgot to terminate the loop. I forgot to put a proper condition so that it does not the loop stops executing. Otherwise, the loop will keep on executing infinitely, and you'll imagine, okay, what is happening? Why is my code not coming? Why is it not completing? Why is it printing again and again? So that is what we have to take care, that loop, there should always be a condition inside your loop to actually keep there should always be a condition which should hold false after some point of time, right? So let's say let's consider, let's try to write a for loop. For loop is considered to be like one of the majorly used loops across all programming languages, and in most of the programming languages out there, you would find something known as a for loop, right? So what do we do? We'll write for, and let's try to take a variable var a equal to 10, right? And I'll do this, right? Let me just try to explain it first. Let's just take it slowly, and we'll take the theory part of it first, and then we'll come to the implementation part of it, right? So let me just present this. And now it is telling that, okay, there's a start, the loop will start, and then some initialization will go on, right? There's some initialization that has to go on now, and after that it will check with a condition. So as I mentioned, that the condition and the loop will keep executing till the time the condition is getting true and true and true. As soon as it gets false, the loop will end. That's what it is. So the condition till the time it's getting true. So once it goes to the true, then it will do a loop body, whatever is written inside the loop. So loop body, or so whatever is written inside the curly braces, right? It's usually considered to be a body. So if whatever we wrote inside the if curly braces, it was considered if body. Whatever is written inside a loop, we'll see the syntax. But just consider whatever is written inside curly braces. It's usually like we saw for functions, right? When we wrote something inside curly braces, I called it a function body. When I wrote something inside if loop, I called it if body, right? So that is what whatever we will write inside loop is considered to be a loop body, and that is a piece of code that will execute every time a condition is held true, right? And then if there is a post expression, it will execute that, and then it will again go to the condition and will check. So now this time, if the condition is again true, it will keep until this loop will keep on going till the time this particular condition returns false, right? So since we covered the theory, we'll just jump into the implementation. It's very interesting. We can cover so much things. We can so this is what a for loop body looks like, right? So a for loop followed by two. It looks like a function, but what this goes into but in a function, right? You had so just to mention this, that function. So for is also a reserved keyword. Like function was a reserved keyword in JavaScript. For is also a reserved keyword. you cannot name a function for, right? You cannot name a function where, you cannot name a function for, you cannot name a function if, you cannot name a function else. So these are some of the reserved keywords which you cannot use. You cannot name your variable by these reserved keywords. You cannot name your function by that, right? So that is what. And now what distinguishes a for loop, right? What distinguishes a for loop from your normal general function? Right now it looks exactly like a function, right? So what distinguishes is that what goes inside this, particular body, right? So now coming back to the referring back to, so we said that there's some initialization. So let me just put that initialization and let's remove this. I'll say I'll define a equal to 10, right? And then I'll say, and then what does it say? It says that it requires a condition, right? It requires a condition. So what I'll do, I'll write a is less than 0 or a is greater than 0. So this loop, and then I'll do this and I'll do nothing, right? Let me just do nothing. This particular position is for the third thing that was expected, which is post expression. Let's not write, it's not, as I mentioned, it's not necessary to write a post expression. And I'll do inside my loop body, what I want to do is console.log of a, right? And I'll do this. Now, okay, let me just run it. And we'll see something. What do we see? It kept printing 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, right? That is what it is doing. And this loop is running indefinitely till the time your computer runs out of memory. This will actually keep on running. And I don't know how to stop this. So I'll just refresh this page. Right? Okay. So what did I say? That we need to always put in some conditions. So we put in a condition, right? But this a is always holding this value of 10. So what I'll do is that I'll say a equal to a minus 1. So what would happen in every time is that whenever this loop is executing, this particular value of a would get updated, right? So then when I initialized a with 10, and then it see that okay, 10 is greater than 0. So it printed. So then it saw that okay, I have to print that. So it's console.log as written. And then what did I do? I made the value of a equal to a minus 1. So now a is 9, and then it will check the condition again. It will check the condition. So just to initialization happens only once, right? So initialize happen only when for loop was initiated once, right? Now a is actually greater than 0. So 9 is greater than 0, then it will execute it, and it will keep executing till the time we come at when 1 a is equal to 1. So when 1 will get printed, and 1 now a will be executed 1 minus 1 to the value of 0, right? So then it will come to here and it will see that okay, a is not not greater than 0, right? Which will 0 is not greater than 0. So this loop will break now. So that is, and I'll print it. I'll print as something here, and I'll say finished. So this finished will be done only will be printed only when this particular statement is completed, right? So I'll do this. And what did it do? It did what exactly we expected. So 10 was executed when 10, and then it printed 10, and then a was given a value of 9. Then it was given a value of 8 and 7 and 6 and 5, and like we mentioned. And then after this condition was held false, this this was printed, right? So that is what a for loop is in all programming languages, and this syntax also remains consistent. Most of the languages, the syntax remain consistent, right? Now, if you think about it, this statement, right? So this thing that we talked about, post expression. So let's just see what is this third argument that we see, right? Also, just to mention all of these. So this is your initialization, then this is your condition, and your post expression have to be separated by a semicolon. This particular semicolon, it has to be separated by this, right? This is a syntax. We cannot do anything about it. That's what it is. Now, one more thing, when we write a equal to a minus 1, it is equivalent to this can also be written as a minus minus. That's it. So this is a shorthand for writing this guy. So a minus minus is actually equivalent to writing this long statement, right? And similarly, if a equal to a plus 1, so this is you can write a plus plus. So a plus plus is equivalent to, so this whenever your compiler sees a plus plus, what it will do is that it will increment whatever value was there in a by 1, right? So that is what it will get incremented. So that is exactly the same concept we are going to use when we do a minus minus. That's what we did. That's exactly what we are doing. So what it will do is that this is your post expression. So once this statement is executed, it will come to your post expression, and then it will execute this post expression, and then it will check the condition. That is what we talked about. That's what we said, right? The condition and the loop body, and then the post expression gets executed, and then the condition, right? So that is what it will do. Let me just try to run it and see if I have not made any mistake. Right? So it finished the same way. It exactly printed the same way. Now you can also do you can also put in conditions over here. Let's say a equal to a minus 5, or let's 2. So what did we do? We assigned the value of a to a minus 2. So that's what we did. So it was 10, then it got decremented by 2, and then got decremented by 2, and then got decremented by 2, 2, and then this condition till the time now a was 0, and this condition did not hold, and then this executed, right? So you can put in, we could also have written whatever we did there, right? We could also have written like this. It's just a short form of writing. So it's called a shorthand, and that is what we do. Now this is your countdown thing, right? You can do a countdown using this, and this is perfect. This is the perfect way of writing a for loop, and there is nobody can ever question you. This is exactly how it is done, and this is such a powerful concept, right? Tomorrow we are gonna talk about arrays and objects, and we will be seeing the true power of how a for loop would execute. That is what we are going to see, right? So for now, this is a for loop. I'll also try to cover one more type of loop, which is while loop. So for loop is a more advanced version of while loop. So now, since we have understood for loop, it's very easy for us to understand what a while loop is, and it's a very simple concept, right? So basically, your while loop is something which does not. A while loop is something which only checks for condition. It does not have this thing or this thing. So if anybody asks you ever that what is the difference between a for loop and a while loop, you can say it's a for loop with only condition, without initialization and a post expression. That is what a for loop is. That's what a while loop is, right? So let me just try to I'll comment out this. I'll comment this out, and this too, and we'll try to write a while loop. So while, and there's some condition which goes on in it, and that is it. That's what a while loop is. Very simply put. And you just you have to put a condition, like while loop is very similar to like if that we talked about, right? So if is so this is similar to while, and in if we were saying, right, that there's a condition that if that condition holds true, it will go inside, right? And if a while is also doing the same thing. So I can write that if a is less than 0, that's it. So this condition will keep, whenever till the time this condition is getting held true, this will keep executing, and I'll write console.log of a, right? And it will, and since we know, so now what is happening is that we are not decrementing like we were doing. Like we are not doing it in our body, and we are not doing it in our post expression. This is so basically the value of a is never changing, right? So then again, what will happen is that it will keep printing a till the time. So basically, what we'll do is that we'll do a equal to a, and we'll do a equal to a minus 1. And now, since we know I would not want to use this, I find it a better habit of using a minus minus. That's it. So I'll do a minus minus, and then we'll see what happens, right? My bad. And okay, it did not print anything. Okay, now we'll see. Can if somebody is when you're watching this video, I would want you to pause for a second and understand what's the problem with this. I have actually seen it. So the problem with this is that a is 10, and we have put in the wrong condition. A is less than 0, so it did not. So this condition was never held true, and this piece of code was never executed, and just printed finished, right? So we'll just change it to a is greater than 0. So till the time a is greater than 0, that's exactly what we did. The same condition we have put in here. Till the time a is greater than 0, it will keep executing, right? So, and we'll try to run this thing, and it worked perfectly, right? That is what we did. And also, what you can do, one stupid thing that you can do, just to make fun of it, you can do while true. That's it. So this since it's always true, it will always keep on running. It will, and you'll see. I'll have to refresh the page, but okay, just to show you how, guys, how it is getting done. See, since it was not limited by a if greater than zero condition, it will keep on printing the negative values. It'll keep going down, 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 down till the time my browser crashes, right? It will just keep on running it. So that's not a good way. Just to show you, just to make fun out of it. That's what it is. Just whenever you are actually running, whenever you see that you have come across a Stack Overflow exception when you are developing something, right? If you're developing something and you come across your Stack Overflow exception or anything, right? Just think of your loops. Something would have been going wrong with your loop. That is what this is all about, right? So this is what how a for loop and a while loop functions. So just to reiterate what we covered, a for loop is a loop is something which will keep on doing its work iteratively again and again and again till the time it is till the time a condition which is holding true is till the time a condition is holding true, and as soon as the condition that was getting held as true is turned to false, it will stop executing that loop. So always make sure that you have a fallback. You have your there's a condition which will always is limiting your code. It should never be the case wherein your loop should run indefinitely. That's never a good practice, and it will always run into problems. It will keep on taking infinite amount of memory and all of that, right? All of those conditions you will run into. So that is what. So a loop is something which will, and then the simplest of the loops is a while loop, which is exactly similar to an if condition, wherein if only works once, while is a loop which will keep on executing till the time the condition that you have passed it inside its parenthesis will till the time its parentheses are that condition is getting held true. It will keep on executing. As soon as it turns false, it will this condition will actually the body of the loop will stop executing. More advanced version of it comes with for loop, which is this guy. uh, and what this guy does is that it provides you something called as initialization and also your post expression. So first time, whenever you're executing this your code, right, you can say a, you can do this. If you don't need this, you can just also remove this, right? And it will work exactly the same way, right? So if you do not need initializations, you can do that. That's fine. If you even if you don't want your post expression, that is also fine. You just need to put. So then I would suggest that you write a file loop. Why would you want to use this? It's not a good practice to unnecessarily put semicolons and use a for loop when you do not need anything, right? So if let's say I had not defined this variable, I had just given it a value, I had not given it any value, and that is and so what it will do is that it provides you the power to initialize any variable, and then you can put a condition, and then you can increment it. Just to be sure, just to help you guys out, or to let you know, that it is not necessary that these conditions are all the same. This is that whatever variable you are initializing, you are limited, or you would have to write a condition on that particular variable, or you would be decrementing. It's generally that would happen because whichever variable you would be putting a condition on, the same variable you would be actually also the same condition, the variable that you were decrementing, you would be actually putting a condition on that particular. Usually that is the case, right? But it's not necessary to do that. Tomorrow we will be seeing an object and how do we iterate over an object, and what are the various variables if you want to the class members and all of that. We will be talking about all of that. So this will get super interesting, right? Also, let's just take a very simple example of a count up timer, wherein I'll say, so exactly, I just changed it. And what did I say? That I would want to build a count up timer wherein I'll print 0 till 9, right? So it will become 0, and then it will print this, then it will increment. So A will become 1. So 1 is greater than 10, this will execute, then 2, then A plus plus will become 2. So 2 is also less than 10. So it will keep on executing till the time, let's just imagine, till the time it's 9, 9 is less than 10, and it will print 9. and then it will see 10. It will get incremented because a++, right? So 10 is not less than 10, so it will not print this particular statement. So that is what it is. That's what a for loop is, right? uh, we have covered both of them, and if you want to, if let's also do it with the for loop, and I'll say till the time it is less than 100, and I would want to increment it. If I had done minus minus, right, my a was already a value of 10. So okay, let me just execute this. I'll put it 10, right? Let's say, and if I say that if a is less than 10 is less than 100, right, and I would keep on decrementing it, so it will keep on, so this condition will never be false, right? It will always keep on decreasing, and this condition will always keep on holding true. So that is why till the time my I would have to do, I can do a plus plus. So that is it. So what will happen is that it will print all the statements from 10 to 100. So my a was actually initialized at a value of 10. So that's why it printed 10, then 11, then 12, then 13. And till 99, it will print. I can also do less than equal to if I want to have 100 over here, right? What I can do is I can do exactly. So I got 100. So till 100. So when a turned 100, this condition was, because it's equality, it will hold true. And hence we were able to print 100 as well. Right. So that's about what for loops are. We'll just very quickly also try to cover up what the if conditions that are there. So as we mentioned, this is very colloquial in nature, and whatever is the if we want to perform some statement, so we write a condition, we write a statement, and if that condition holds true, the code inside that particular block will get executed. If not, then it will move on to the next part of your if. So if there is else if, then it will check with the else if statement, and if that is true, then it will execute that piece of code. And if there's nothing, and if none of the if statements are there, it will go to your else block, and it will else whatever is written in your else, it will execute that. If you haven't written your else, then only the if condition is getting so it's not necessary for us to write all of these. It's just that if you want to write if, and you want to perform some other operation when if is not there, then what would you do? So that is why these all are given to us, right? So just iterating, if number is 2, this will, and number 2 is greater than 0, so it will be it will just try to print it. It will execute this line, and it won't execute any other line, right? And similarly, if this particular statement is not held true, it will go to the next statement, and if this is held true, so it will execute this code, and it will move on to the next. Now third condition is that if number is -2, this all the ifs are not, if all the ifs are not there, then the else statement will execute. That's it. As simple as that, right? So I think that is it for today. We will meet tomorrow, wherein we will be talking about objects, and we will try to cover up and objects and arrays, and it would be super interesting to understand how arrays works, and how can we iterate through an array, how would manipulate an array, how would you put one element here, there. All of these things we will be doing, and for the purpose of iterating to the array, the only thing that is available to you is your loop. So that is why we have covered loops today, and we'll be putting them to very good use tomorrow. So thank you, and please, if you have any doubts, please please do use the doubts forum, and the team is always listening, always checking out the doubts forum, and they would answer your questions. I thank you for your time. Thank you. Bye bye.